Most students fail to secure scholarship not because they are not talented, but because they make avoidable mistakes. In this video, you are going to understand why you were getting tons of rejections when you submit your scholarship applications. And by the end of the video, if you adjust your application based on the shared information, you would be able to move your application from basic to competitive or extremely competitive. And this is what we want. We want to submit scholarship applications that are extremely competitive so that we are selected. Now, let's get right into the mistakes that scholarship students make. Number one, we have not meeting the eligibility criteria. Most students aim to just submit their applications without reading through the eligibility criteria that is set for that scholarship. For instance, each scholarship has an age restriction, has a nationality restriction, and sometimes it would have a GPA threshold restriction. So if you are a student and you're applying for a scholarship and you just apply blindly without meeting the nationality requirements, without meeting the age restrictions and other minimum requirements set for the scholarship application, you are bound to get a rejection, not because you were not fit for the program. Number two, we have weak academic performance. Scholarships are very competitive, and if you apply without meeting the certain basic grades that the scholarship wants, you are bound to get a rejection. And this is an avoidable mistake. Why? As long as you see that you're not meeting the academic performance required for a scholarship, it would be better off if you don't apply and channel your energy to the scholarship that you are eligible for. Scholarships are very competitive. So if you have weak academic performance, you are bound to get rejections. On number three, we have poor application quality. This is where most students make mistakes. For example, if you're applying for a scholarship on an online application platform and you enter your date of birth or your name, or you forget your middle name, those are some of the things that show that your application is of poor quality. If they look at the documents that you upload and then they look at the application form and they see that you have skipped important information, that puts your application in a poor quality batch. Incomplete forms, incomplete submissions, spelling errors, they all contribute. So when applying for scholarships as a student, make sure that you put all the correct information required for the scholarship. Make sure that you check for spelling errors, because all of these contribute to your application being put under poor quality applications, and all of that would lead to automatic rejection, yet it's an avoidable mistake. Number four, we have weak personal statements or personal essays. A personal statement is a document that gets into the room where the scholarship board is sitting and making decisions and represents you. So this personal statement is very important. And one of the mistakes that students make is that they download generic personal statements, forgetting that these scholarship boards have been sitting down for years and they can tell the difference between a generic personal statement and a unique personal statement written from the heart. So as a student who is applying for scholarship, make sure that you take your personal statement seriously, because it's going to represent you in rooms where you are not in. And make sure that you are not just writing a personal statement that doesn't bring out the motivation, the leadership, and why the scholarship board should pick you. So this is a very important document that you need to pay attention to. And if you have a weak personal statement, that means that the document that you have sent to represent you in the room will do its job poorly and will lead to an automatic rejection. So make sure that you pay attention to your personal statements. On number five, we have late submissions. We have people who wait until last minute. They just want to do their things last minute, forgetting that scholarship boards come from different time zones. Some are in Africa, some are in Asia, some are in America, some are in Antarctica. So what it means is that if a scholarship board says our deadline is 10 p.m. Central European time, and you're in Asia and you're not paying attention to those time zones, you end up submitting your application late. Why? Because you did not pay attention to the finer details of the scholarship. So it is important that you don't wait for last minute to do your submissions. And it is important to note that if you are doing online applications, sometimes they have a cutoff time. If the cutoff time is passed, you are not able to submit. But we have applications that are done by sending on email. So whether the deadline is passed or not, you can still send your email. And what it means is that before they sit down to decide, they will pick all the applications that made it before deadline. Anything that comes after the deadline is thrown away, and you end up getting a rejection and wondering, what have I done wrong? A late submission would lead to an automatic rejection. So make sure that you pay attention to the submission deadline set in your scholarship application. On number 6, we have lack of extracurricular activities. We have students who do not take time to build extracurricular activities whilst they are waiting or whilst they are working towards getting a scholarship. If you plan to get a scholarship, make sure that as you are doing your studies, we understand that education is important and it should be a top priority. But make sure that when you do your education, you are also paying attention to extracurricular activities, because extracurricular activities will give you points when you do your scholarship application. So despite having good grades, you might not be able to get the scholarship. Why? Because there's someone who has good grades plus good extracurricular activities. So you end up getting an automatic rejection, not because you were not competitive, but you were lacking an important part of your scholarship application. So pay attention to this. If you are in high school, start working towards building extracurricular activities. If you are in university, make sure that you do some internships, you do some shadowing, and make sure that you serve in your community, because this will actually add some points to your scholarship application. On number 7, we have poor recommendation letters. Trust me, recommendation letters can be a make or break to a situation or to your scholarship application. Recommendation letters are an integral part of a scholarship application. You might have good grades, you might have extracurricular activities, you might submit your application before the deadline, but if you don't have letters, then your scholarship might lead to an automatic rejection. Why? Because recommendation letters are an integral part. Make sure that you pay attention to recommendation letters. Make sure that you ask your recommenders to do it on time, and make sure that you ask for recommendation letters to people that really know you. Number 8, this is very, very important. We have students that want to apply for scholarships just for the sake of applying. And number 8, we have applying for wrong scholarships. Sometimes it's okay to look at a scholarship and admit that this scholarship is not a good fit for me as a student. This is very important because it reduces the number of rejections that you get when you do your scholarship applications. Sometimes as a student, you don't have to be so stubborn seeing that you're not meeting the requirements, or seeing that this scholarship is completely not for me, and you go on and apply, and then you get a rejection and you start feeling down. The point is, you will be applying for wrong scholarships, and applying for wrong scholarships will actually lead to automatic rejection. So pay attention to the scholarships that you're applying. Make sure that they are the right fit for you as a student. On number 9, we have failure to perform good in interviews. This is very important. I know that now that scholarships are becoming more and more popular, more and more competitive, we had scholarships that you could just apply, give them your documents, and then wait for reply. But we are seeing a norm, or it's becoming so common that most scholarships require that they do interviews for their students. And if you fail to perform good in interviews, that leads to an automatic rejection. So in as much as you have the good academic performance that they need, you have the good recommendations, you have done everything correctly except performing well for interviews, you will get an automatic rejection. And what it means is that if you are a student, pay attention to see if your scholarship application requires you to do an interview. And if it does require you to do an interview, it is important that you learn, you practice before your interview day, so that you don't get a rejection when you were meeting all the criteria except failing the interview. On number 10, we have limited awareness and guidance. Not knowing where to find the scholarships, not knowing the selection process for a scholarship will reduce the success of you getting a scholarship. And sometimes it leads to automatic rejection, because this awareness and guidance is an integral part of the scholarship application. When you know exactly how the selection process works, when you know exactly how the scholarship system or the scholarship application process works, then you would be able to do the job correctly. For instance, if you don't know that when you're applying for a scholarship, we have what we call 20%, which is the what, where, how, when part of a scholarship, and we have 80%, which then constitutes of your CV, your recommendation letters, your personal essays. Not knowing that alone sets you directly for failure. So if you're so unsure of how you should navigate the scholarship application, you can reach out to us. I offer consultation services at a fee. Reach out if you need some guidance. If you made it to this part of the video, don't forget to subscribe and learn how scholarships really work, from eligibility to selection process, curated by an Erasmus Mundus alumni.